as permanently conserved open space about half of the parcel. And then the units that you would build otherwise, you cluster in the remaining half of the parcel. And to enable that, you have reduced lot size and relax some of the dimensional standards. So it yields the same number of units and basically the same housing, but protects 50% of the parcel as open space. We've been kind of revisiting this classic approach to OSRD to make it even more effective at protecting open space and providing the housing options that we so desperately need. So EEA provides a model OSRD bylaw with a couple new ideas in it. And there have been some towns that have already started implementing this. So these were the kind of new ideas that we proposed and helped Linfield consider. So the first is, if OSRDs are providing greater public benefit than conventional large lot subdivisions, let's align our permitting process to really make it easier to build OSRDs. So let's allow OSRDs by right and require a special permit for large lot subdivisions. And then the second kind of newer idea to OSRDs that we considered in Linfield was to reform the potential yield and housing type. So many of the towns in our region have OSRD bylaws on the books, and many of them include density bonus options. So we wanted to consider those options in Linfield and craft some density bonus options that provide greater public benefit than typical large lot single family homes. So to further examine the opportunities and impacts of these two newer ideas to OSRDs, we created some sketch plans specific to Linfield. So this is the parcel, outlined in black, for which we designed sketch plans. So it's 9 acres, it's in 30,000 square foot lot zoning. The yellowish hatched layer is wildlife habitat. So you can see that it's contiguous with habitat, but also surrounded by some existing neighborhoods. The image below is the view from the street. So you can see there's a stone wall, a large, and some existing homes on the parcel. It's also walking distance to a pond across the street. One of the reasons we chose this parcel for our sketch plans of how the bylaw could play out in town was because it's slated for development. So the town knew that it would be clear cut soon, and that community members, when considering the OSRD bylaw, would see this parcel being clear cut, and so it would provide motivation to adopt the OSRD and protect the next parcel that's being subdivided from being clear cut. And I think that that helps to show what's possible, that the town has the power to reform some of its policy to make development better serve the public, better serve the environment and the land. And sure enough, the parcel has demonstrated kind of the worst of conventional subdivision. So here's an aerial photo on the top from last year of the parcel, and then just this summer, and all the trees that have been removed. So if we zoom into this parcel and kind of play out the different scenarios, you, under a conventional subdivision, have kind of a blank canvas, a 9-acre parcel. Let's put some standard houses on it. So this is basically what's going to be built there, and currently is allowed by right. Again, the new bylaw would require a special permit for this development. So it's 9 units. I think that's less than the zoning allows, probably because there are some wetlands on the land. Approximately 45 bedrooms, no open space, but some protected wetlands. And interestingly, I heard from the town planner that the developer wanted to protect some open space. they didn't really want to build this, but because of the existing zoning, they had to meet larger lot and setback and frontage requirements. And so the zoning prohibited the developer from protecting open space. So in contrast, this parcel could have been built under an OSRD bylaw. And we, based on the state's model zoning, built into the bylaw language a 4-step design process that the developer has to take and has to demonstrate to the planning board that they took when designing the site plan for the OSRD. So first of all, it's not a blank slate. The first step is to really identify the natural and cultural resources. So get to know the land and the particular context of the parcel. So there's wetlands, there's a wetland buffer. As you saw from the aerial, there had been forested area. There's 3 existing homes and street trees and a view from the street of a lawn. So then based on that, you locate the home sites, and then you connect the home sites with infrastructure and a road, and then you draw in the lot lines. So that's what could have been built, for example, if the OSRD bylaw had been adopted. And again, currently this development is prohibited, and the new bylaw would allow it by right. So in this example, to run through the numbers, it's the same number of units. And actually we estimate that there'd be probably a few fewer bedrooms because the existing homes would be retained and those homes are a little smaller. So you get the same number of units, but 4.5 acres of open space and the protected existing cultural and natural resources. So that kind of outlines the reform in the permitting process. And then, as I mentioned, we also examined different density bonuses. So one is a bonus for affordable homes, deed restricted affordable homes. So this is designed so that the developer would get 1 additional market rate home for every affordable home, up to a 50% density bonus. But actually on such a small parcel, a 50% density bonus is only 4 more units. And we show them here as duplexes by a special permit. Another density bonus would be to provide public access to the open space. So not only do you conserve it, but you provide access. So in this density bonus that we designed, it'd be up to a 15% increase. So that actually only means 1 more unit. And in this particular parcel, having this walking trail could connect to the existing sidewalks and the pond that I showed on the aerial. So you could walk from the pond along sidewalks through this trail to that large area of habitat. So it could really provide great value. Another density bonus was to conserve more open space. So if you conserve more open space, you get to build a few more units. And lastly, we considered a density bonus for cottage clusters. So the Land Use Department has been doing some really interesting work on cottage clusters, and I'd be happy to talk about those zoning projects as well. But the idea of cottage clusters are the homes are smaller. In this case, it'd be a density bonus, so you could build more of them. But not only that, they're oriented around a common green, a shared green space, and the parking is in the rear. And there's some other design standards, but basically the idea of cottage clusters is they increase housing options, the housing mix. They're lower cost, but market rate housing, and they're really community oriented due to that thoughtful site design. So here's a picture of a cottage cluster that's built in Concord. Maybe many of you are familiar with this. The Concord River Walk is easy to fawn over. And actually the project as shown here in the site plan has some conserved open space that's accessible to the public, as well as that shared common space for the residents. So if you play this out on this parcel, how we drafted this density bonus is that all homes would have to be less than 1,500 square feet. So there's a maximum unit size to get this density bonus. And they have to meet these thoughtful site plan requirements, like being oriented around a common green space with parking in the rear. And it would be 100% density bonus. So that can feel kind of shocking, but because the homes are so small, I think it's reasonable to estimate that this would yield the same number of bedrooms as a conventional subdivision. And when you actually look at the existing built form in Linfield, the sweet little neighborhood across the street has quarter-acre lots, which would be the same density as those cottage clusters. So in fact, those smaller lots and smaller units kind of harken back to the traditional built form of Linfield. So after kind of considering all those sketch plans, the products that we've developed as of yet include the draft OSRD bylaw, and then the planning board asked us to draft, to keep the density bonuses actually separate and to draft them as amendments to the bylaw. So that's what we did. And then we also drafted the tree protection bylaw and the tree protection rules and regulations. And then I worked with the communications department, Karen and Kit, and maybe some others. Oh, and Alexis helped with this from housing, to develop some one-pagers to describe, these concepts, and maybe use these at town meeting to help communicate the benefits and impacts of the OSRD bylaw and the density bonuses. So the current status of the project, I'm happy to say, last Wednesday, I think that's still accurate, the planning board voted to add the OSRD bylaw and the tree protection bylaw to the warrant for town meeting. They've decided to wait on the density bonuses. I think there's a feeling that this is already a lot of change and a lot to absorb. And so they don't want the OSRD to be voted down just because of the density bonuses. And as shown here, a developer has already proposed an OSRD subdivision for a parcel in town and is happy to be a champion for the bylaw. So reflecting on all of that, I'm really happy to say that both bylaws are going to town meeting. There have been challenges, and one remains, and that is there's a big golf course in town. And there are multiple players with the golf course. There's the golf course owner and the developer, and they've been sowing some seeds of fear in the select board that adopting this OSRD bylaw would make it harder to negotiate development proposals on the golf course. And I think there's solutions to that. I think there are ways to keep the golf course active while also building some houses on the fringe, but it's been difficult to negotiate because of the multiple players involved. And I think quite honestly, because our role as a technical advisor, it's like we can write this bylaw and we can run some numbers and develop these sketch plans. But ultimately, the folks in the room are the developer, the owner, and the town. So we're not as involved in the actual negotiations. And with all that said, because I'm an advocate at heart and because my land use colleagues encouraged me to do this, I wanted to highlight one big takeaway. So if we zoom out from Linfield, what's a big takeaway for the broader region? And as my land use colleagues kind of pointed out when we were discussing this project, it seems like this reform to the permitting process could be a goal for us in towns across the region. So currently, large lot subdivisions are by right. And in a lot of our towns, they have OSRD on the books, but it's by special permit. And if OSRD is really providing greater public benefit, then let's make it easier to build, and let's switch that permitting process to make OSRDs by right and large lot conventional subdivisions by special permit. So with that, I'm happy to take suggestions. This project is still live, and any questions?
Great, thank you, Ella. Sandra, I see that you have a question.
Thanks, Ella. That was amazing. So, will it be by right in Enfield?
If they approve it at town meeting, yes, that's how the bylaw is currently drafted.
And then Ella, I just have a quick question. I know when you did the switcheroo with the large lot special permit with the OSRD, I'm sure the conversation came up, or did it come up, about changing the perspective of large lots in general, or was that just met very coldly?
Can you clarify?
Sure. So you said that that zoning district is 30,000 square feet minimum, right? So did the conversation ever come up, like, perhaps, like, we take this one step further, and instead of saying merely that large lot creation would be special permit, should there also be a conversation, like, perhaps that square footage requirement is perhaps should be lower?
Yeah, I really appreciate that question. I don't think it was named ever. Now, you know, in the time before COVID, it's hard to almost remember what those discussions at the planning board meeting were. And I certainly considered that, you know, ultimately with the density bonuses, the result is just smaller lot sizes. And so, like, maybe we could just do that. But I don't think that was really ever explicitly discussed, which probably indicates that there would be, you know, it wouldn't be positively received. But maybe we should push it.
Yeah. Yes, Mark.
Two quick questions, Ella. One is, I'm wondering if you feel the density bonuses actually have a shot in the future, assuming this one goes through, or were they actually not excited about more houses? And that relates to an item that appeared on your last slide, but which you did not speak about, which is the select board opposition to housing and additional students in town. And I'm wondering sort of how that got argued and what actually got said.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So do the density bonuses have any potential? The planning board is quite supportive and really interested in increasing housing options, and loves the idea of cottage clusters. And the planning board is active, and the planning board chair is a great leader. So I think they might. I think also there's a couple big parcels. There's the golf course. There's this big parcel that the developer does have a site plan for. And if those two big parcels are kind of addressed, which I think they might be in the next year, I kind of think that the density bonuses might be more palatable on smaller parcels like we showed on the sketch plan. And so they could be revisited when kind of like the golf course and the other big parcel are like dealt with. Because a density bonus of 50% could yield a whole lot of new units on those bigger parcels. Right, in terms of that bullet that I added about the select board. So I haven't presented to the select board. I haven't spoken to any members myself. What I have heard from the town planner is that there is great concern from the select board about building single family housing because of student generation rates. And we have provided our research that Tim Reardon's team produced a couple of years ago, disentangling the relationship between housing production and student generation. You know, we've talked about thinking longer term. It's hard for me to totally yeah, because I haven't spoken with the select board directly, it's hard to figure out solutions, but basically for the golf course, they are happy for it to be developed into 150 affordable housing units. And actually the golf course developer proposed that to retain the golf course, but on the forested land, build 150 affordable elderly units, not affordable. And the select board supported that, but it went to town meeting and the community rejected it. They do not want an OSRD bylaw that allows for as many units to be built as could be under conventional subdivision, because they believe that the golf course won't be developed as a conventional subdivision. So we shouldn't provide an option that would allow that many single family units.
Thank you, Ella.
Great, thank you. Any other looming questions?
I'll ask just a quick one, Ella. It's a big subject, but it sounded like your activist side at the end of your presentation thinks this might be a good path forward, not just in Linfield, but in other communities. Where are you in that thinking? How far along in that process have you gotten?
Mm-hmm. Well, so on the books, Ayr and Shutesbury already have bylaws that allow OSRD by right and conventional, require a special permit for conventional. Sherborne just adopted at town meeting like 3 weeks ago, that same bylaw. So I think
Wow,
there's
that's a
momentum.
surprise.
Yeah, it took them like 3 years, I think, to build the support.
Oh,
but
no, it took them 30 years, Ella. You just don't go back far enough.
But I know that, you know, Mark has really encouraged this project and helped supervise and guide it along the way and was really helpful in that.
That's
and
Mark
I think,
Rathicott, for everyone to be clear.
And we've had a good discussion within the land use department that Mark leads about the potential for this kind of reform to be applied to other towns. Yeah, I still think it has a lot of potential.
So we will be moving forward with it in other communities. Hopefully the density bonus ideas, which would be even more impactful, are ones that we can try as well in other places. It's a harder sell, but I think we're going to be the salespeople. And I just wanted I wanted the offices to see this because I think it represents some really good thinking, good drafting, some good politics, and some good presentation. And that's a mix we need to make change.
And you will see the recommendation in Metro Common, in the open space sections of Metro Common, to promote OSRD by right.
Interesting.
Okay. Thank you, Ella and Mark.
Great, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Have a lovely rest of your day.
thank you. Bye.
And with that, now that we're live on YouTube, I am going to formally call the MAPC officers meeting for Monday, September 14th, 2020 to order. If it is okay with the rest of the board, I'd like to go out of order, just kind of quickly on the agenda, because I know we have some conflicts at 10:30 with some members, so I'd like to kind of try and prioritize the agenda. So does anyone have an issue with that?
Nope.
Okay, great. Sam, I just want to hear your verbal. But first, let me call roll, because that's probably the most important thing first, and then we will go to, I will yield to Mark for the priority item, what you feel is the most pressing for you. So Sam?
Here.
Great. Sandra? I see your lips moving, you're on mute, but that's okay. She says yes, thumbs up, great. And Adam?
Here.
Great, and Erin here. So all the officers are present. Executive Director Mark, what is the first item that you'd like to discuss priority-wise?
I'd like to discuss issues not that we were not aware of at the time of the posting of the agenda.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, fine. I didn't know how formal you wanted me to be there.
I'm
Sorry.
very formal. Yes, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
So the issue is in regard to the natural gas compressor proposed for the town of Weymouth. As I think you all know, this is a very challenging and controversial project. MAPC responded to an RFP and successfully competed to write a health impact assessment in regard to this project a couple of years ago. It was about a 6-month effort, and we were technically under contract with DPH. We actually worked about evenly with DPH and DEP on this question, along with the municipalities and an advisory committee that we established. In shorthand, because it is a much more complex issue, we determined in the HIA that we did not feel there would be any significant negative health impacts based on the new admissions to be added as a result of the location of this compressor. And that was a very controversial finding. It was allegedly used to help the state do the permitting of this site, but in actuality, I don't think it played a significant role in the state permitting this site. The advocates and residents were very upset, or many advocates and residents were very upset with the finding. I think the communities share their view, although it's interesting to note that none of the communities, none of the municipal governments have actually complained to us about the findings, even though they all do oppose the compressor being located there. Shortly thereafter, as a result of a variety of reasons, we chose to oppose the location based upon 2 other grounds. Remember, our HIA was based solely upon the compressor operating under normal operating conditions. We felt that the issues of public safety in the event of a mechanical or an oversight misfunction were not adequately addressed either by us or anybody else. And similarly, we do not like the addition of new natural gas infrastructure in the region, especially largely for export, because it adds to climate changing emissions and it makes it more difficult for us to achieve our goals under the Global Warming Solution Act. We did not feel comfortable, however, withdrawing our perspective on health impacts under normal operations because we felt they were consistent with the data, even if they were not consistent with our opposition to the project. We did agree and fund a professional review of the HIA. We put that forward competitively. We received a few, not too many, 2 or 3 applications, and we decided to make the award to Public Health by Design, which is actually located in the United Kingdom, but has a lot of experience assessing HIAs in regard to international standards. And they came out with a final document after, I think, one review process, and that document is ready to be released. We have prepared a public statement in regard to that release. The document on the whole, I think, found that our review was adequate and appropriate, and the data we used consistent with good practice. They did make some significant recommendations to improve our HIA practice going forward. In my public statement, I will note particularly 4 of those. I think they are the major ones. There are others that I would regard as more minor, but worthy of note. We are, in this public statement, accepting the review, thanking PhD for the review, making a statement about the 4 ways in which we commit to improve our HIA practice going forward. And we are reiterating our opposition to the project because of public safety and greenhouse gas emissions impacts. Just for people to be aware, the project is already under construction. It is likely to go forward. There seem to be few regulatory hurdles, although the matter is still in litigation. There was, as you may have heard or seen in the media, a shutdown and unanticipated ground level release of natural gas at the site on Friday of last week. In the public statement, I mentioned that as further reason to kind of strengthen our opposition to the project. To be clear, it is unlikely that anyone will be satisfied with the review or with our statement. You know, folks who oppose the project, as we do, generally would like us to kind of say the HI was wrong, or to change our perspective regarding whether it should be utilized. In many ways, that would be convenient for us, but I don't think it is consistent with the facts that we determine, nor do I think it is warranted by the review. I do think it's important to continue to indicate our opposition to the project. It also changes my perspective about whether we should accept a project where the state severely constrains our ability to scope the work. And I know that Barry Keppard, who has been very, not directly involved in the review, but has always come in and provided input when appropriate, is in agreement with the adjustments to our practice, and including sort of our reticence about selecting a project in the future that might be similarly constrained. So I felt that the offices should be aware of this. It's likely to get some coverage in the press. I don't think much. It's likely to get more attention on social media, probably not positively. But I think people should be aware of it. And obviously, I'm open to answering questions about it if you have any. And Rebecca can chime in as well.
Any questions? So Mark, do you need anything from us, or was that just an update?
Forbearance and your sympathy. That's all I need. No, I don't need anything. No, we don't need anything. Rebecca, do you need anything?
Okay. Well, I appreciate the update. I remember when it came up a couple of years ago. So if there are no.
Aaron, can I ask just a quick question? I don't want to, it doesn't have to be a long, but it sounds like the scoping question is maybe the biggest takeaway from this whole experience, that MAPC will be careful about what it gets into with the state on certain possible projects. Is that?
Yeah, I think one always needs to be concerned, Sam, whether the client, if you will, and I don't like to use the word client, but whether the client is the state, a municipality, or a private entity. One has to be concerned about whether or not we feel we can do a fully robust job given the limitations of the scope, understanding that the limitations they place on the scope may be related to their own perspective. And, you know, in this case, I think we probably should have, and I say in the statement, we should have taken that more carefully into account, and we will in the future be somewhat more concerned about that issue. I don't think it's only with the state. I think, you know, you often do work for interested parties, and
Right.
and that's just the way it is. So I think we'll be a little more cautious about that.
Right. No. I appreciate that. Okay. Thank you. Thanks.
Okay.
Great. Any other questions? Great. Adam just had to step away for a few minutes. So is there, what is the pleasure?
I hope we can go to the minutes, because the minutes seem to be an enormous challenge today. So we'll clear this underbrush out, and then we can, you know, hopefully we'll get back to the month by month.
Sure. So we'll go to item 2. We'll go kind of back in order. So we're looking at.
May have a question. I don't know.
Yeah, so we have to
Oh,
go.
I'm sorry.
So we'll have
Sorry.
to go to executive session to approve the minute,
No.
executive session minutes.
We don't.
Okay.
If I may, Aaron.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Yes. So I asked Jen Garcia to take a look at this issue, and she determined that it is only advisable, not even necessary, but advisable, to approve the minutes in executive session if you wish to keep the minutes private or confidential, because the matter is still ongoing. In this case, all the executive sessions in these multiple months were in regard to the renegotiation of my contract. And I don't think any of us, including me, have any interest in seeing them remain confidential. That matter is over and the contract is signed. So I think we can approve the minutes in open session.
Yep. Yeah, the threshold is that the confidential nature is now resolved. So there's no, so an executive session minutes are always released once the topic at hand is resolved. So just so everyone understands that if there's, you know, an executive session in another meeting in another group of a public entity that you wish to seek as a member of the public, you're able to access that once that item is concluded. So it's like an interesting kind of thing. Anyway, so I guess what we should do first is, if it's okay with Sandra and Sam, if it's okay with you, could we do the 3 minutes listed first? So July 6th, July 20th, and then the correction for June 1st. Could we take that as one item? Would you both be comfortable with that? I see Sandra, you're nodding, and thumbs up. Thank you.
Yes.
Sam, I don't have that pleasure.
I'm looking kind of mountain manish right now. Yeah,
Okay.
no problems here. No problems here.
I'll just visualize your thumbs up. So thank you for that. So go ahead, Mark.
Aaron, I have only one concern about that. I'm perfectly fine taking 7.6 and 7.20 together. I'm a little reluctant to take the 6.1 correction together, because at the end of that document, there appear to be some paragraphs that are out of order. And
Okay.
I couldn't resolve that on my own. So I would like to actually look at that one
Okay.
and try and resolve it. But I'm totally comfortable with 7.6 and 7.20 being taken together.
Okay. And then we'll hold the correction for June 1st to the October meeting. That's fine.
No, we can do it today. I just want to look, I'm sorry, when I said I want to look at it, I didn't mean I want to look at it later in the month. I mean, just share it on the screen and get people to take a look at the end of it. And I think
Okay.
folks will be able to resolve the order question.
Okay, that's totally fine.
And
So
I'll
let's
explain what I mean when we get to it.
That's fine. So let's do the low-hanging fruit first. I'm going to call for a motion to approve the July 6th and July 20th meeting minutes. Sandra?
So moved.
Okay. Sandra motioned lips, but everything has to be verbal. So Sandra, is it okay? Sam moved and you seconded?
Yes.
Okay, thank you for coming off mute. Great. So we have a motion made by Sam and a second made by Sandra to approve the July 6th and July 20th meeting minutes. All those in favor, roll call is required. So Sam?
Yes.
Sandra?
Aye.
Yes.
Sandra? Okay. Adam, I think we're just going to count him as an abstention or not present for the moment. And Aaron, aye. So the motion passes 3-0. Okay, next up, Sasha, would you be able to, Mark, would you like to share your screen?
No, I asked Heidi and Sasha
Okay.
to be there to share the screen, the one that involves the correction to June
Yep.
1st.
At the last page. So Heidi, you're working on that? Great. Thank you, Heidi. Or Sasha?
All right, then, thank you.
Great.
I will explain it, Aaron, if that's okay with you.
Totally fine.
So if someone could scroll down, since obviously it's not on my document, on my screen. If you can scroll down to the bolded section, Heidi, first. Oh. You are muted, Heidi.
Sasha, I need the minutes from
This isn't it, right?
6-1. That'll say corrections.
Right, there are actually 2 minutes for 6-1. And I'm going to suggest that we look at both of them and then maybe adopt those
Okay.
jointly. Thank you for your patience, everyone, and thanks
Yep,
to
thank you.
and Heidi for working on this.
challenges of.
Okay, wait a second, let me see. All right. Screen, yeah.
Can folks hear me?
Now we can, Sasha, yes.
Oh, great. I was saying, I think I have both options pulled up. Oh, Heidi has
Yep.
them.
I got them. So I will scroll down the section. I
Okay.
did not get
There it
This-
is.
bolded session. I did not receive this section from Sandra before we actually reviewed this.
But is this the
Before we
one that
approved
I
it.
sent to you? Heidi, is this the one I sent last night?
I sent it
Yes,
to Mark originally, because I thought he wanted to see it first, that's why.
Yeah. So folks, this is the section that's being added. The section that's being added is related to the discussion of my performance, which was never executive session, but was a discussion that did not have that was not put in previously. So Heidi, this is not the right document. It does not contain my edits. This is not the document that I sent last night.
okay, let me find that.
Right, the only minutes that should be used, and to be perfectly honest, this goes for the ones we just approved as well. The only minutes that should be used are the ones that I sent last night.
I
Those have been edited.
yeah, I will grab those. Hold on. I thought that I had those, but I did not.
I copied you on them. It was late last
Yes,
night.
I
think
did, and
around,
I saved them. I apologize. For some reason, it does not seem like they saved correctly. Oh, okay, these are the ones from your email.
Mark, you're muted.
Thank you, Sasha. I'm sorry. I should be able to tell if this is, no, it's not the right one.
Okay,
I think the reason might be because maybe the changes have not been saved. So at this point, folks,
And
I,
Heidi, my version looks totally different than that.
okay. Can you
if give
email
me
me
the
with
right-
your-
if you give me the ability to share the screen, I
Yeah.
might be able to put it up.
Okay,
I can also put it up if necessary.
Mark, you should be able to share your screen now.
All right, I have to locate the document. But I will do
And Erin,
that.
I'll give permission as well, just.
Okay, that's fine. I can, because I can share it, right?
Yes, you should be able to.
Well, Erin, why don't you give it a whirl?
Okay. All right. How we doing, everyone?
Good.
Good.
Right. Erin, could you scroll down to the bolded, the end of the bolded section?
Sure can.
Thank you.
So bolded.
Down considerably.
Yep. Oh, found
That's where
it.
it starts. Good.
Sorry.
Okay. Now if you could go down to the end of that.
Okay, sure.
Okay, pause there.
Yep.
And I can now see that this is in fact the correct one. So
Let
the
me.
bolded section, just to be clear, this is what we're adding to previously approved minutes.
Yeah.
It was never executive session. We just didn't have the notes on it yet because staff was
Yeah.
not in the room for the conversation. Sandra provided those notes. I edited it very minorly. And it is now before you. It is the actual review process. Now, what I think the problem is that if you go up to the very top of the bolded section, Erin,
Yeah.
there it is. All right, and maybe a little bit higher. Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
This looks fine to me, but if you now go to the bottom of the bolded section, Erin,
Yes, I'm doing it. Yep.
I know we were just there, I apologize.
No, it's fine. Yes.
Okay, we have other business, which is fine. Adjournment of the regular session. And can you continue, or is we're adjourning the regular session, but then there's no opening of the executive session.
Okay.
Then have the actual negotiation part, and then we have adjournment of the executive session. So I feel like somehow, folks, the opening of the executive is lost, and I don't actually know if you can open an executive session after the regular session is adjourned. Now, I'm sure it happened, and I'm sure we had a vote in favor of it on the part of all the parties, so I don't think it would be problematic to add it. But if you're going to close an executive session, you have to open an executive session.
Well,
You opened it. The thing is, you took items out of order. There were items out of order. And I was so I think what happens if you look at the last line of the review, the performance review,
Okay.
there was a motion to exit the regular session and then enter executive session.
right.
So the only item that is out of order is, would be the adjournment of the regular session, because once, and that's my fault, once you actually, they exited executive session, then then the officers had to
Come back.
adjourn the regular session.
That makes a lot of sense, Heidi. Could
So
we go
it's
back to that?
this.
Yeah,
So it's this right there has to be moved.
that and the other business. The section right before.
No, it doesn't matter though if we.
Yep.
Okay, fine. I guess we
Yeah.
could.
All right. So hold on.
There we go. Perfect.
Okay.
Like I've done this before.
Yeah.
Okay.
And could I actually see at the end of the
And you,
board?
but honestly, we should have, and Heidi, you might have this in your notes. We have to timestamp in some way.
I
The
don't
group
have those
coming
notes.
back.
Sandra, you would have, I think you would need to let me know when
Hold on.
times are.
I can tell you. Hold on. 12:11. Here we go.
Wow.
You adjourn the executive committee. Okay.
Adjourned executive.
Heidi, you need to say return. Return. Okay, there's a typo. It needs to say return.
Right. Do you see what I did there, Sandra?
Yep.
Typo.
No, it's because it's different people doing, like, we just need to overlap them. It's not a big deal.
Just doesn't return. have to-
And this
That
is
down there,
incorrect.
That needs to be
Yep.
corrected. And the last phrase
And
needs,
this is PM. Yep.
yep. And then the last actual, like, period after PM, and then delete the rest.
Like that.
Yep.
Got it. How are we feeling about this, everyone?
The only thing I would like to do is see the opening of the executive session.
Oh, okay. Hold, please. Ta-da! And this is taken, Mark, directly from your email at 10 o'clock last night.
Well, it's in this document. I think you just have to scroll up in the document.
Yeah. It's at the end of the bolded section, Erin.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said you wanted to see executive session minutes.
No. We'll get to
Okay, just kidding.
a little lower.
Lower?
Lower.
Yeah,
end
the
of
last
bolded-
paragraph.
I'm sorry. I thought you said the beginning. Okay.
Okay, and there it is. Now,
Yep.
we didn't have a roll call on this. We must have had a roll call.
We did.
So I don't think we need to do it now, but if everybody could recognize that Heidi will add that roll call.
Yeah.
Nope, I'll do it right now.
Okay, fine.
I'll just do that, Heidi.
Yeah, it
And I'll
was
send it to you and
voted.
then you can look at it.
Yeah,
Okay, fine. So if and when we are voting on this, it will include the roll call to open executive.
Yes.
So, Erin, I am now
Yes.
comfortable, if there are no questions, I am now comfortable with you having a vote on adopting, I would suggest, the full set of minutes, even though we've done it partially before, there have been some changes. So I would suggest adopting this full set of minutes for June 1st, 2020. Now, it should be noted, before I say I'm comfortable with that, actually, what we may want to do is just open up the executive session minutes for this same date. And then we could incorporate them into these minutes. We don't have to do it physically. We could just say that will be done. And then we could vote on them all as a single motion, the entire minutes of the 1st of June. You understand what I'm getting at?
yep.
Can I just clarify? So the executive session minutes, we've decided are now public, and they can get literally folded in to
Yes,
the main minutes of the meeting. Is that
correct.
that
There's no need to do them separately.
got it? And do they just read continuously as part of the minutes of the main meeting?
They will, once they are incorporated, and we will make sure that there's appropriate transition verbiage.
Right. Okay.
So
Got
we
it.
don't even have to open them up. Everybody also received the executive session minutes for the 1st of June.
Yes.
And if there are no questions or comments on those, then what we would do is, Erin, if this is okay with you, to just have a single motion on all of the documents relating to the minutes of the 1st of June and adopt them in use.
Yes, so I'm seeking that motion to approve meeting minutes for June 1st as amended.
Including those from the executive session.
Correct.
So moved.
Motion made by Sandra.
Second.
Oh, Adam, hi. Second made by Adam. Any questions on that? Great. And for clarification purposes, Heidi, I will save this and I'll send it back to you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Great. So seeing no questions, a roll call vote is required. Sam,
Yes.
Sandra,
Yes.
Adam,
Yes.
and Erin. Yes. Okay. Motion passes unanimously for all meeting minutes, including executive sessions as amended for June 1st, 2020. Great. Perfect. Okay. Next item up on the agenda, and we're going to have to do it speedway. Review of contracts.
I'm sorry, Erin, there is one more set of minutes to approve. The minutes from April. I don't remember the date. I believe they were the executive session minutes for the month of April because I believe that the regular meeting minutes were already adopted. They were sent to you, and if we could simply approve them, there's no need to bring them on the screen unless an officer has a reason. What is the date, Heidi?
The 6th.
April 6th. Sorry.
Yep. So can I have a motion to approve the executive session minutes for April 6th?
So moved. Second.
Motion made by Sam, second made by Adam to approve the executive session minutes for April 6th. Any questions or comments? Great. Roll call vote is required. So Sam,
Yes.
Sandra,
Sorry. Sorry. Yes.
okay. Adam,
Yes.
Erin, yes. Motion passes unanimously. The minutes, the executive session minute, oh, go ahead, Sandra.
Yeah, no, this is just relating to other minutes. So don't we have other minutes also from July?
From July, we did those earlier. We did those first.
Okay.
I think
Okay.
Sandra is speaking about the executive committee, I mean,
I'm talking about this-
session minutes
Right,
from 7/6.
right.
Didn't we do that already?
No, we did the regular session minutes.
All right, well, okay. Let's
I would
just,
say,
okay. April 6th, executive session meeting minutes have passed unanimously. Let's put that on the shelf. Okay, great.
Yep.
So the one outstanding, Sandra, thank you for your eagle eye, is the executive session meeting minutes for
7/6.
July 6th. Let me just,
I don't know that I reviewed those yesterday.
hold on. I don't see them as part of your email, Mark.
So why don't we look into this? I would not take any more time today. Thank you, Sandra, for bringing it to our attention. It's entirely possible Heidi forwarded me something and I got through 5 of them and missed the 6th one.
Mhm.
But at our next meeting, we will do that.
Great. And then perhaps between now and our next meeting on October 5th, we could just double check and make sure everything's up to date.
Yeah.
For everything? Okay, great.
Yep.
That's a good resolution. Okay. Any other questions on that? Great. So the next item on the agenda is the review of contracts.
Yes. I would suggest we not spend particularly much time on this. It was a long list of contracts for two reasons. One, we had 3 months to go over. But secondly, if you look at July and August, they are chock full of contracts. So the slowdown that I think we saw beginning in March, it kind of came back at us with a vengeance in July and August, which is good news. And in fact, I know that, like, I did a lot of contract signing even this weekend, and I'm still not done. So what I would suggest is, obviously look at the pass-through or the revenue contracts. We usually pay somewhat more attention to the revenue projects. If people have any questions on either of them, Rebecca and I would be glad to answer you. We can do it now. We could do it after the meeting if you have a question, whatever you prefer, Erin.
Okay, great. And so does anyone have any pressing questions right now for Mark or Rebecca on this item?
Just generally, Mark and Rebecca, do you feel as though the COVID slowdown is now in the past as far as you can tell?
Was there a slowdown?
I don't know, but it's March, April sounded like that, or May slowed down, and it's picked back up, and you think it'll continue forward at this
I
pace?
think that that's yet to be seen, Sam. I think that we've definitely seen an uptick in terms of the contracts flowing, although a lot of those contracts are going both ways. We have a lot of money that we're handing out to communities, whether through DPH, from the Bar Foundation, from the Mass Development Taxi Fund. So it's a both way street, which is part of why the contracts are still up. In terms of the revenue picture, unfortunately, I think we're still very much in a wait and see, and obviously the inability so far of the federal government to figure out any way to help solve the state's financial issues could have serious impacts on ours and localities and everyone's kind of finances and economic outlook. So I do not feel like we're through that hurdle.
Right. Okay. Yeah, but that's helpful. That's helpful to get that overview. So I appreciate that.
And I agree with
Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
And unmute. Great. Thank you so much. Any other pressing questions or comments? Great. So next up on the agenda is hiring and staff updates. Mark or Rebecca? Usually Rebecca.
Usually Rebecca, yes.
Sure. So I think, the major update I would say is that we have decided to post a position. We're posting the data services position that was previously held by Saliki. My understanding is that we have gotten hundreds of applications, not surprisingly, although, the quality of the application pool, it shouldn't be represented by the hundreds, but there are definitely some very well qualified applicants there. This is the first position that we had held that we're looking to fill, and mainly because the data services research team really needs that additional capacity. On top of that, I think we will see, and I don't have the numbers settled yet, but definitely a few interns that will be here for the fall semester. We are looking to either extend or have some interns on board. And then finally, so folks know, our human resource generalist is off on parental leave. And so we have brought on actually a former intern in a part-time capacity to help fill some of that kind of clerical side work to support Holly in her work. Sandra.
So thanks, Rebecca. It's so great to hear your voice. Do we pay interns?
We do.
And does it vary, or is it the standard?
No, it's standard. We pay between $18 and $22 depending on level of education or time spent at MAPC.
Great.
Sometimes they bring in resources as well, but we don't have them as volunteers.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
And we actually, really implemented that during the last recession, when, I think there was a lot of concern from an equity perspective about unpaid internships. I'm getting pushback on that, but I'm not willing to move from that at this point. I'd rather have a smaller number of paid interns.
I agree with that. And I would say we are also actively reviewing a posting in the transportation department. We're probably going to pursue that a little more slowly than the data services department. And both Tim and Eric are on board with that. But we're reviewing that job posting, and I expect it will go out soon. And I would strongly suspect that we will get a similar flood of applications for the transportation planner position.
And again, that's another backfilled position. It's another position we've been holding filling on.
Is the flood of applications just because people have lost, basically?
Yeah, I think that I had a meeting with Tim and Jesse last week where we caught up on this, among other personnel issues. And yeah, I think it's a lot of folks stretching to see whether, their resumes are not necessarily, it's not a lot of planners or anything like that, just folks who lost jobs that are kind of seeing whether this might work.
Great.
Um,
Go ahead, Sam.
Just a question. So it sounds like, as I recall it, one of the sort of prudent matters was not filling any new positions. So it sounds like you feel comfortable enough to start to think about new positions or new hires at any rate.
Sure,
These are
if you
not new
remember,
positions.
yeah, they're not new positions. These are positions where someone has left. And if you remember in the budget, Sam, I think we had 4 of them in the budget for half the year. That's how we had put them in. So this is still working towards that.
Got it. Okay.
Those are not new positions, but places where we had not been filling a position where someone had left.
Got it. But we can talk, we'll talk separately, but it was in the budget already, right? This money was in the budget?
Correct. These were budgeted positions, and financially, these are both the data service and the transportation position are highly revenue heavy positions, so highly chargeable. So if you remember, for
Right.
FY20, one of our biggest concerns is overhead. And one way to mitigate, the overhead being too high is to make sure that we keep our chargeable positions filled. That's how we recognize revenue.
Got it. Okay. Yep. Makes sense. Okay. Thanks.
If we could,
Thanks.
I'm for one getting a fair amount of feedback. If people could remember to mute when they're not speaking, that might help.
Yeah, the feedback's coming from Sam's phone.
Sorry.
It's Maine. It's fine. Great. So next up on the agenda, thank you for that staff update and the light review of contracts. So do you want to do just a quick Metro Common update?
We don't seem to have Eric. That might be an oversight on our part, but I think that Rebecca and I can adequately update here. We have concluded all of the action area public sessions. There have been 10 of them, 2 for each action area. I think we brought a lot of new people in, a lot of different voices. They had some interesting things to say. They were not hugely attended. I don't think any of them was a blockbuster in terms of numbers of people. I do think there were a lot of different faces. Is Eric H. on standby? I'm sorry. All right, if we can bring him in, that's fine, Aaron, if that's all right with you.
Well, Mark, I do want to note we're already over. Am I wrong?
No, we are.
Okay, well, I can finish. Recently, we've had meetings, Rebecca and I have had meetings with both the research staff and the scenario planning staff. I think both of those elements in Metro Common are moving along very, very well. I think the scenario planning staff particularly has made up for a lot of the changes that were appropriate as a result of the pandemic and other urgent issues in our country. The research a little less adapted, I think, but finishing projects that have been underway for a long time and that will contribute to Metro Future. And the last thing I would note is that the policy work is moving ahead of pace with about, I'd say, 40% of the chapters in and being reviewed, and the rest coming as planned in 2 additional sets.
Great, thank you. Any pressing questions or comments? Hearing none, we will move briskly to the next topic. Just apologies to Eric about our timing situation. Next up is the agenda for our next executive committee meeting, which is September 16th. Did we receive that?
No, we did not.
Okay.
Heidi, you're on mute, but do you have it to share? And I have not reviewed it yet, but there are a few points that I would like to make about the agenda. And, you know, the officers don't have to approve the agenda, but I'll just say about the agenda. So while Heidi is trying to share that, I guess I'll just make my points if I can, and Rebecca will chime in. Rebecca, if you have anything to add as well. So folks, there are 2 big document approvals, which unfortunately are not yet ready to come to the executive committee. We were going to do the work plan in September and the SEDS, the Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy, in October. The folks in economic development are on pace to meet that, but Rebecca and I and our directors are not on pace to complete the work plan by Wednesday of this week. There has simply been, I would say, 2 things. First of all, people are still overwhelmed with work related particularly to the pandemic, but also to issues that relate to the equity and police violence debate in our state and in our country. And in addition to that, we are, and related to it, really trying to make sure that the work plans that come out of each department deal with both of those as priority issues for the agency going forward. And sometimes that means making some changes and adjustments. And on the part of the most willing directors, it still means a lot of conversation with staff, talking and thinking and conveying those thoughts into meaningful change. So we're doing plenty of work in the agency. We're not suffering for the lack of an approved work plan, but I think we're going to have to bring that to you in October. And the same with the Community Economic Development Strategy, the SEDS, which I think will be ready for you on the 1st of October. So it will be sent out to the executive committee considerably before the October session. Also, in regard to legislative, there's a lot of update, but I don't believe, and Rebecca will correct me if I'm wrong, that there are any actual legislative approvals at this moment in time, which is reasonable considering the fact that it's the end of the session. It's a very odd end to the session, but it is an end to the session nonetheless. So I think we're going to have a relatively short agenda for this Wednesday. We will probably have another presentation on a project, and I have several thoughts in that regard, but not a tremendous amount to approve. October may need to be a 2-hour meeting, although you never can be sure about that. Sometimes we put the work plan in front of people and they have vast numbers of questions, and sometimes they have virtually no questions. So it might not take the full 2 hours. Rebecca, do you have anything to add on that? I can't see you at the moment.
Nope.
Okay, great. So the agenda will be amended accordingly and posted in the next 21 minutes?
I guess so.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, if there are no pressing questions, I'd like to keep it moving.
Just a comment. So will the work plan be in October? Would it be also be my recommendation, since people won't have had a chance to kind of look at it and digest it at all?
I think we're going to have to do both in October, try our best to get them out to you in a timely manner, and probably to say it's going to be a 2-hour meeting, and hope we can run efficiently enough that it doesn't need to be.
Okay.
Great. Great. So, and that is fine with that. So, really quickly, the fall council meeting.
We
What
have
is
a
the-
date.
That's just the next item on the agenda, fall council meeting. So
Heidi, what is the date?
The date is going to be November 18th.
I would note that we normally elect MPO during this period of time. But instead, there will be basically a new MPO election process that will occur independently of the council meeting. And the announcement will come before, because they need that announcement for the MPO meetings in November. We are still running it with the T Advisory Board. So it's Eric Barassa and Brian Kane, the new director there, who are running it. It will proceed smoothly. I am expecting less political fireworks than the last MPO election, where, as you know, we had a contest between Framingham and Ashland, but it will be occurring independently. Heidi, do we have any awards on our schedule for the fall council meeting?
Make sure I am not muted. I think we should. Normally we do the Man Award and we do the Davidson Award. We had not issued them last year. I think we need to do that this year. I think last year was our big Metro Common night event. So things kind of got pushed off. We also have not awarded a Legislator of the Year award. And I can see from you and Rebecca's face that you're not thinking of anybody in particular.
Rebecca's face is much more diplomatic than mine.
Yeah.
Why don't we, what I would say about this is that Rebecca and I will consult on all three of these awards.
Okay.
My guess is we will recommend doing one or two, not
Yep.
all of them. And, the COVID situation both makes it more difficult, but honestly, there've been a lot of heroes. So, we may want to do one or two of them, I think. And we will contact the offices in regard to that and definitely be able to finalize it at our October officers meeting.
Yep. So I do have a question about fall council because we typically try and do one off hours. So for the November 18th fall council meeting, that is a daytime event.
Yeah, I think we're sticking with regular hours at this point. I don't see the usefulness of doing an evening event.
I'm totally fine with that. I'm just double checking. Great. Daytime morning. Okay, great. Any other pressing questions or comments on the fall council meeting? And obviously, staff, use your discretion on agenda and what you feel is appropriate for content. Okay.
Yes. Last time we had Mayor Tone speak on COVID response. They both did a fine job. I'm not actually sure that they held the audience very much. Getting a speaker for a virtual event is a particular kind of struggle. It's a little bit different than the regular struggle, but we will talk it through and see if we have some recommendations. We are obviously always open to recommendations from you folks. If you wish, you can email Rebecca or I after this meeting.
Great. Any other questions or comments? Great. Thank you so much. Go ahead.
It's virtual. It's going to be virtual, right?
Yes,
it's going to be online.
Yes,
okay.
It is.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Makes sense.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. And then hold on real quick. I got to open this back up. Okay, other business not known at the time of the posting. The one thing I wanted to bring up, and I wanted to kind of do a quick touch with people, are we, because we've had conversations about it and I wasn't sure, are we having our meetings, since they're virtual, continuing like today to start at 9:30, or can we start it back up at 9 o'clock? Because I thought while we were virtual, we would be 9 o'clock. But today was 9:30, so
Either
I
is
can
fine
do
with
9.
me. Yeah, 9 works for me.
okay. How about Sandra? 9 works for you and staff? How does that work? Okay, great. I just like to get them out of the, I don't want to say out of the way, but it's less disruptive the earlier it is. So that is great. Okay, so Heidi, our next officers meeting is October 5th at 9 o'clock. Obviously, executives, next meeting is 11:30 this Wednesday, September 16th. Is there anything else? I know we took business out of order previously, but did I miss anything from the agenda?
I do want to advise you of one other thing. The City of Boston, and Rebecca, I'm wondering if you can summarize this. The City of Boston is engaged in a lawsuit on issues related to an immigration questions. And they have asked us if we would file an amicus brief or sign on to an amicus brief on that. It is consistent with some of the others that we have joined. We usually inform the officers of this. We are awaiting the final brief from the City of Boston and do not usually sign on until that's an opportunity to actually review the document.
Mark, could you hold on? Mark, hold on. Sam, could you mute yourself, please? Great.
Much better. I did want to at least advise the officers that we will be reviewing that, and it is entirely possible there will be another amicus signing in relation to federal issues related to immigration.
Would that require a special meeting of the officers? Because it would be.
No, we generally, in the process we've agreed to follow is to inform the officers of it. And we will also send you an email that informs you of it.
Oh, so we don't vote on that.
But you haven't. You could if you wish, but you haven't. No, the notion is that we did not. Sometimes these things come up very frequently. They come up rather quickly, Sandra. And like they wanted to know if we would sign on and weren't even all that eager to send us the brief, honestly. But we said, no, we need to see the brief before we can sign on. And it's not usually like they're not asking us to write a brief and send it to the Supreme Court. They're usually asking us to sign on with 100 other people. And it doesn't permit the time for the officers to meet and deliberate on each of them.
Great. Any other pressing questions? Great.
No.
Oh, okay. Great. Anything else not known at the time of this posting that we need to talk about or address? Great. Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn at this time.
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Motion made by Adam, second made by Sam. Roll call vote is required. Sam?
Yes.
Sandra?
Yes.
Adam?
Yes.
And Erin, yes. So the motion unanimously passes. Meeting is adjourned at 11:20. Thank you particularly to Sasha for dealing with our tech issues. I know we started late, so I apologize for us kind of running a little over, but we can only do what we can do. So I'm glad Sasha was here to mitigate that.
I apologize for the delay with the YouTube.
It's not, you do not own YouTube, to my knowledge, so it's not your fault.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I hope everyone has a fantastic rest of your day. And I will see you all virtually on Wednesday.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks. Sorry for the feedback.
It's fine. Have a good one all.